Back to A Boring Revolution, your number one news source for everything in regards to the Boring Company. Welcome back, everyone. I've just got a quick episode for you today. One thing I've been thinking about quite a lot is what companies can partner with the Boring Company. What companies can either offer something to the Boring Company that we can partner with, or we can offer something to that company, or a bit of both. And what happened was I did a bit of a list, and I've come up with this collection of companies which I believe will definitely benefit the Boring Company if we can agree terms with them. So let's have a look. Companies the Boring Company should partner with. Let's get this order. So, when I was going through this list, I wanted to think, why do certain companies want to partner with the Boring Company? Why would the Boring Company want to partner with those companies and vice versa? I sort of came up with this list of 6 reasons why a partnership might work out. Now, it might initially start as a partnership and it might turn into, the Boring Company might purchase that company or acquire the technology that they have, but there's definitely a lot of opportunities out there, especially in the USA. So companies with unique technologies and patents we can use. Obviously, if they've got something that's going to make it easier to bore tunnels or to operate an autonomous mass transit system, then we definitely want to work with them. Organizations with large pools of money to invest. If they're willing to invest in projects or to invest in the Boring Company in order to get a return, hey, why not work with us? Companies with similar goals and mission statements. So the Tesla mission statement is to progress or to reduce the amount of time it takes to move to a world where we have sustainable transport. And obviously the Boring Company has a very similar mission statement. So any company that kind of has a similar mission statement that can offer us something that we can work with, then absolutely we want to get into bed with those people. So companies with expertise in building mass transit, that can be public companies, that could be private companies, organizations with expertise in tunneling and drilling, especially number 5. Any company that has some kind of expertise in that area that can make the process of building tunnels quicker, more efficient, of a better quality. Very interested in partnering with those companies, and maybe at a later date actually acquiring those companies. Companies or entities that need a mass transit solution. So maybe they are based in a location where mass transit is either poor or doesn't exist, and they want to work with the Boring Company to build a mass transit system that fits their needs, like the Las Vegas Convention Center. That is a great example of number 6. They need to move people from one side of the convention center to the other, and they want to do that without spending, $200 million. And the Boring Company can do that for them, and they both benefit from that partnership. And hopefully that leads to more things. As you know, Tesla over the years have had many partnerships with many companies. Some have worked rather well. Some have fallen by the wayside. For example, Mobileye. Mobileye is now part of Intel, but Mobileye was running the autonomous driving system for Tesla before they went their separate ways. But Tesla learned a lot from that partnership with Mobileye. It was around 3, 4, maybe 5 years they worked with Mobileye. They learned a lot from that partnership. Even when they broke apart what they'd learned, they created their own system. Their own system is 4 or 5 times better than Mobileye's current system. Therefore, that partnership was very, very beneficial for Tesla. Very beneficial. Even though it fell apart, it was definitely one of the things that's going to make them a multi-billion-dollar company from where they started. Maxwell Technologies, obviously, they originally were just going to partner with Maxwell Technologies, and they ended up acquiring them, which, you know, is potentially the better option to go. And Panasonic obviously have a current relationship with Tesla in regards to batteries. Tesla had no experience of mass producing batteries. They partnered with Panasonic. They've learned a lot from that. And again, I think potentially with the Maxwell acquisition, they could maybe go it alone in the future. But over the last 7 or 8 years, they have learned immense amounts about battery chemistry from Panasonic and how to mass produce batteries. So again, very beneficial. But this is the Boring Company. So obviously going to start with one of the big boys to begin with, Uber. Uber recently went, they listed on the New York Stock Exchange. They have a huge pile of cash. I believe at this very moment in time, it's somewhere around the $10 to $11 billion in spare cash that they intend to invest in the business. A lot of that cash is being burned because they're making a loss. Now, that's a major problem for Uber because in 3 years' time, they will have burned through all those billions and billions of dollars. Why not sit down with the Boring Company, say, hey, we want to build a scheme in LA or San Francisco or some other city. If you build a tunnel, we'll pay for that tunnel. We'll have a joint agreement to own that tunnel, and then we can both run our vehicles through that tunnel, or maybe Uber acquires some pods from Tesla to run in that tunnel, and they run it as a mass transit scheme. Uber wants to become the Amazon of transport, although at the moment they haven't really proved that. I mean, they have scooters and bikes and things like that, but in terms of linking up light rail and Amtrak and things like that, Uber's not delivered yet. But with the Boring Company, potentially they could turn all those losses into profits if they invest a significant amount of that spare cash they have to hand. The next company is probably my favourite for working with. The reason is the Robbins Company has a 50-year, I'd say nearly 60-year track record of constant improvement in terms of their tunneling technology. They have some of the best people working there. They are very, very innovative. Certainly, over the last 60 years, the Robbins Company have continued to build better and better machines. They are the king of tunneling through hard rock. No one can compete with them. Even in semi-hard rock or soft rock, they are still a force to be reckoned with in terms of small to medium-sized TBMs. They were actually the first company to develop a double-shielded TBM, and they also developed cutter. They were the first TBM in the USA to use cutter blades. So over the years, so many innovations have come from this company, thinking outside the box. Why not work with them? Why not have them as a subcontractor? Or maybe even acquire them? Who knows? But there's certainly a lot there in terms of improving how the Boring Company builds tunnels just by working with these guys, and a partnership should be considered a very, very potentially prosperous opportunity for both companies. Both companies could potentially walk away with millions and millions of dollars in profit just from working together. The next company might surprise you a bit, but it's Bitcoin.com. Now, obviously, this is a technology YouTube channel. So we're kind of going into finance here, but without going into all the details, there are various versions of Bitcoin. Yeah, there's the original Bitcoin, there's Bitcoin Cash, and there's Bitcoin SV, and there's Bitcoin Gold. Now, Bitcoin.com is the Bitcoin Cash variant, and it's run by a guy called Roger Ver, who's a multimillionaire. Now, he has all sorts of partnerships. He works very heavily in Japan. He has partnerships with the major airlines one of the major airlines in Japan. And this has kind of got my brain juices flowing, thinking about potentially, could Bitcoin.com and Roger Ver work with the Boring Company and offer an alternative way to pay for tickets, or maybe offer some kind of smart ticketing system using the blockchain. It's very possible, and definitely it should be explored. It would be in both parties' interest to do this. Obviously, Bitcoin is very speculative. I wouldn't recommend investing in it unless you understand the technology. But what Roger Ver has achieved at Bitcoin.com over the last 3 years has been tremendous. He's always delivered on his promises, and having that ability to pay with Bitcoin on your phone when you're using the Boring Company Loop would definitely make things a lot easier. I mean, maybe they could partner with PayPal, but they're nowhere near as innovative as the Bitcoin Cash community. Next one, might not surprise you, Virgin Hyperloop One. Now, there are other Hyperloop companies. Hyperloop TT is another one of the big players. The reason I chose Virgin is because I think they're the one who's closest to developing or building a functioning Hyperloop system, potentially less than 18 months away. I think that the current technology would possibly fit in a Boring Company tunnel. Potentially the Boring Company could build a specific TBM that maybe has a 16-foot diameter for Hyperloop, but I think the current one of around 14 foot is sufficient for the job. But potentially, if you could build very, very cheap tunnels for around $4 million per mile, you could put a lot of the Hyperloop underground, which would save a tremendous amount of money. Would allow you to run the tunnels in almost perfect straight lines. That would allow the Virgin Hyperloop One to save a significant amount of money. So the Boring Company gets a nice big contract from Virgin Hyperloop One, which is great, lots of money for the Boring Company, and Virgin Hyperloop One gets to save a big ton of money on its projects, and therefore everyone wins. That would be great. Obviously there are other Hyperloop companies, but I think the favourite one is Virgin Hyperloop One at the moment. Fantastic technology. I cannot wait for the day when I can travel from London to Manchester in 35 minutes. That would be tremendous. CarbonCure Technologies Inc. Now, I'd say this is my second favourite company to partner with. Now, CarbonCure Technologies tend to partner with other cement concrete producers. However, maybe the Boring Company might be manufacturing its own concrete at some point in its batching facilities, in its concrete production facilities. Therefore, if they could partner with the Boring Company, they could use this carbon capture scheme, whereby they extract carbon dioxide from industrial processes and power stations, and then they inject that carbon dioxide into the concrete itself. Now, it's not a massive amount of carbon dioxide, but it adds up when you're pouring, multiple cubic meters of concrete every day. It soon adds up. This would definitely help the Boring Company with its green agenda. There's a lot of criticism of concrete in general, saying that it's not very green, but I can foresee where you build concrete tunnels and they stay perfectly intact for 200 plus years. So really, in the grand scheme of things, it's better to use concrete than steel. It's literally maintenance free. Virgin Trains USA, another Virgin company. As you can see, I do like Richard Branson. I think he's an amazing businessman. But recently, he purchased a high-speed rail operator in the USA, in Florida, called Brightline. Brightline, phenomenal company. They're building high-speed rail in the USA. They're one of the only companies other than Amtrak. I think that the Boring Company and Virgin Trains could build up an excellent partnership. And you might think that these two entities are competing against each other. Not necessarily. Because if you can get people using the Boring Company to then go to the actual Virgin train stations you are bringing customers to your train station. Therefore, you're going to increase the number of people using those services. So it might only be linking up, a 6 or 7 mile tunnel to the actual train station, but potentially you could double the number of passengers going through the train station. Now, Brightline has plans to buy, they've actually already bought another high-speed rail company that is linking LA and Las Vegas. Now, obviously, the Boeing Company has won that scheme in Las Vegas. Potentially, could they connect the convention center to the train station? I think the train station is going to be built out of town, off the main strip in Las Vegas. Potentially, if they could link the convention center, the airport, and the new train station, then that would make things very convenient. Brightline / Virgin are planning to build a high-speed rail link to Disneyland, Florida. Again, if we could link up the train stations along that route, that would help Brightline out. That would help the Boeing Company out, because that's hundreds of millions of dollars worth of new contracts. Again, very beneficial. It helps everyone out. Thanks for the questions, guys. We're going to go through them at the end. If you've got any more questions for me, ask away, and I'll try and answer them at the end of the presentation. It goes along the same lines as the Virgin Trains, this one. BART, or Bay Area Rapid Transit, is being expanded. It's not being expanded quick enough. A lot of the stations are park and ride. If they could connect up the stations with a Boeing Company system, they wouldn't need the park and ride, or they wouldn't use it as much, and therefore they could increase the number of passengers using BART quite considerably, increasing the turnover of the company, maybe allowing them to expand the system further. So again, everyone benefits from connecting up, because if you imagine the train system in the UK, a lot of the time people are being dropped off at the train stations, either via a taxi, a car. Sometimes they even catch a bus to get to the train station to get on the train. It's not very efficient. It would be much more efficient if we could use the AEVs or the pods from the Boeing Company, and we could really knit in all the public transport options. Skyway. Now, Skyway are a very, very innovative company. They're based in Belarus. They have this very, very unique mass transit system. They do various versions. They do some low-speed versions that have got a top speed of 80 miles per hour. But they have these ones which are, I believe, are over 100 miles per hour. And then they have another one that is close to 200 miles per hour. Now, the Boeing Company system works really well when you're moving people from 2 miles to 120 miles. Now, if you go above 120 miles, it's more efficient to use high-speed rail. But what Skyway is trying to do is it's trying to make high-speed rail look obsolete, because it can do it a lot cheaper. They use this very, very innovative, it's almost like a truss-style system, slash a steel column system, whereby they put the actual pre-stressed steel cables inside the box section steel. They fill that with a cement solvent, and then that whole box section steel can support multiple tonnage of mass transit systems, and they can do it a lot cheaper than building trains. And obviously they can go, because it's based on columns, it's a bit like a monorail. It can go over or around buildings. So potentially, if we could link up high-speed Skyway stations with the Boeing Company system, again, we could both benefit from cross passengers using both systems. So, one other thing I've thought about, and if you remember, about 4 or 5 months ago, the CEO of Salesforce tweeted that he wanted to work with the Boeing Company because it was taking forever to get his people into the office. Salesforce have built this huge tower, and people are late for work all the time because congestion is terrible. Now, wouldn't it be great if the Salesforce team said, you know what, Boeing Company, we're going to loan you $200 million so that you can link up our tower to your Boeing Company system, and that's going to mean that our employees are going to be able to get to work on time, and their commute is going to be much less stressful. That way they come to work and they're more productive. Now the same goes for Apple. They've just built a new campus in Cupertino in California. Amazon are in the process of building new headquarters. The one in New York fell through, but I believe they're building it somewhere else on the East Coast. Why not reach out to Amazon and say, look, you can partner with us. If you invest $100 million into our company, we will build a direct tunnel to your new headquarters, and we will guarantee a certain number of pods. We'll use that tunnel per hour, and we'll give all your employees a discount. I mean, it works well for everyone. And if that money is in the form of a loan, it will be paid back over a 5-year period, and the Boring Company gets all the fares, which will probably mean they'll make a nice little profit, which is superb for everyone. And again, mutual benefit for everyone involved. Everyone gets to progress renewable mass transit in the USA, and we all win. So thank you for watching, guys. I'm going to have some questions at the end. Please like and subscribe if you've not done so to this YouTube channel. Join me on Discord, Twitter and Instagram. The links are down below. I appreciate some feedback in the comments below. Thanks to all my Patreons, as always. You know who you are. Thank you for supporting this channel. Thank you for watching. As always, please like and subscribe. Okay, questions. Let's have a look. How are we doing? Cormac, how you doing, mate? Nice to see you. Nice to see you on the live stream. And I hope we've picked a good time for you. So, Christopher Hatton. Let's have a look. Yeah, there's a lot of... thanks for the question, Christopher. There's a lot of really good Hyperloop companies. I neglect to mention them all because there's so many. But Hyperloop TT and Virgin Hyperloop One seem to be them. I think there's another Transpod. That's it. Transpod is the other really innovative company that we should definitely partner with. It all benefits our movement towards sustainable transport. So we have mutual goals. So why not work together? Absolutely. Also agree with the crypto payment idea. Thank you very much. I was a bit worried about putting that in there, I thought a lot of people would give me some criticism, but what Roger Ver has achieved at Bitcoin.com, and you should definitely check out that website, is phenomenal. He's a man who delivers on his promises. He delivers a very, very reliable system, very fast transactions. I think it's worth giving it a go. I mean, if it doesn't work out, we can just simply move on to someone else, another cryptocurrency. But just based on what Roger Ver's achieved in the last 18 months, it's definitely worth giving him a go. One technology, hi Cormac. One technology I'm looking at is the carbon capture in the concrete for tunnel sections. Yeah, so in terms of CarbonCure, the main use would be in the actual prefabricated concrete segments that are assembled. Those segments are built way in advance of the tunnel construction. There's typically a 28-day curing period for those concrete segments. So you could build 4,000 concrete segments way in advance of the tunnel even starting. And obviously you could use this CO2 capture technology, which is fairly simple to do, really. Apparently it only takes around 2 days to install it at the concrete batching plant. So, it works out well for everyone. And the concrete is actually slightly stronger once you inject CO2 into it. I can't explain as to why that is. It might be something to do with the actual gaps in between the fine aggregate and the coarse aggregate and the cement. I'm unsure, but I believe that's the reason. Let's have a look for some more questions. Yeah, I mean, you will be using cement in the actual boring bricks as well, so I wonder if you could use it in that instant. We need to abandon 20th century transport altogether. Absolutely. That's why I've included a lot of companies in here that are being innovative in the world of, or the industry of transport. Skyway, Brightline, Hyperloop, Uber. I mean, Uber gets a lot of criticism, and they are a company that's burning absolute tons of money. But if we could work out a partnership with Uber, because they're desperate to spend that money, they have close to $11 billion on their balance sheet that they need to spend. Why not build a tunnel and try and run it like with the Boeing Company? Maybe we could share it. Maybe the Boeing Company could have its own pods and the Uber could have its own pods. There's a deal to be made, and it should be considered. Trains are very inefficient. Diesel trains are very inefficient, definitely. I mean, electric trains are pretty efficient, but again, obviously, most of them have a driver. But pods, autonomous electric vehicles, don't have a driver. They're very efficient. You know, it costs something like 2 cents to drive a mile, or 3 cents, something very tiny. So, you know, it's definitely, we've got the better system. But if they want to build a high-speed rail network, you know, they can build it, but let us connect up to it so we can take some of those passengers. How you doing, mate? Electric mass transit was bought out and voted out by fossil fuel companies in the 1920s and 1930s. Yes, very true. I don't know if you've followed all the streetcars in LA. There's a very interesting documentary on YouTube about how all the automotive companies bought up the streetcars in LA and turned what was an absolutely phenomenal system in the 1940s and 1950s and just turned it into dust and destroyed the lives of people. And it was just, these streetcars were very efficient and were being used by thousands and thousands of people every hour. And then they just removed it and replaced it with diesel buses. And it was just terrible practice by the automotive companies. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, sorry, I didn't read you. I should have read your other comments, shouldn't I? But yeah, that is exactly what happened. I forget what the company was called, but I think it was GM actually bought them. Christopher Hatton, is there anything that could be done for underwater tourism? Are you talking about my proposed project, the Katara Depression Project? Because I've got a few ideas for that. An underground submarine. Dublin Luke. Hey, Tormac here on the Dublin Luke channel. Hi, mate. Dash lines. Have you seen the new video with the Model X going 122 miles per hour in the Hawthorne Tunnel? I've certainly seen the one where they think they're doing 127. Very interesting. They appear to have tarmacked the base of the tunnel. They've removed the concrete shelves. I can't see any alignment wheels. This is a major change from the existing plan. I'm unsure if they're going to move that forward for the Las Vegas project. I think there's a much more efficient way of pouring the base of that tunnel. Because why do the shelves need to be made out of concrete? Why not use steel and prefabricate it off-site? That is definitely one option I'm going to be considering for a future video. CarbonCure.com. I have to check them out. Are they are they a company that plans to sequester carbon dioxide into concrete? Can you just tell me? Think of the weight of trains. Yeah, fair point, Cormac. I came home on a train yesterday and I caught the train at 10 to 10 from Manchester, Piccadilly. And it was a 2-carriage train and there were 8 people on it. So we had this huge 50-ton train and there's probably 8 or 9 people on it. It was just, you know, not very efficient. And to make things worse, it was diesel powered. and you could smell the diesel. Horrible. Yeah, hundreds of tons. Christopher Hatton, another great question. Thank you for the questions, Chris. Would the loop system be hooked up to a residential garage? I think one potential idea is that they purchase properties on various streets. They keep the properties as they are, maybe just tidy them up a little bit. But actually inside the property, they remove all the internal walls and then they have a loop elevator go up inside that property. People would actually leave from the property through the front door, but you'd never know it wasn't a residential house. They purchased a house in Hawthorne, California. From the outside, it looks like they've done it up, but I'm unsure what exactly they've done inside. As far as I'm aware, they have dug the shaft and they were doing some pipe jacking, but that is yet to finish. Or they've not knocked it through on the other side. I'm unsure. Okay, let's get a few more questions in and then we'll call it a day. How's the audio, by the way? Is the audio okay? I've upgraded this Ecamm Live today, so I wanted to check it's working properly. How about the picture quality? Is that any good? Yeah, well, this is, thank you. This is the problem in Greater Manchester as well, Cormac. The trains are around 50 to 60% diesel, and some of the stations, it's difficult to breathe. If you go into Manchester Piccadilly or Manchester Victoria at the wrong time, you could have an asthma attack. The diesel in the air is thick and it's horrible, and that is we've been electrifying trains for close to 80 years, so why has it not been finished? We should not be using diesel trains. We should be using electric trains, and where possible, we should be using the Boring Company system for all other means of transport. Every other means of transport, whether that be buses or cars, we don't need that. We can use the Boring Company loop system. Good audio, all good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. And the picture's good, yeah? Good picture. Handsome boy. Independent of UK, London Underground, Tube Western. But oh yeah, I read that article. Yeah. Oh, terrible. I'm going to call it a day, but let's go and have a look at some of these companies that I've spoke about today. So this is the Robbins Company. They manufacture TBMs. They run the actual team, the teams that actually use them. So they've got expertise in that area. Hello, Neil.